infections, and then what looks like fibrosis, irreversible disease. There's reports of patients, but at the same time, from a sort of logistics and resource standpoint and everything, how many hospital can you support everybody for 200 days? And then what happens at 200 days when they're not better? And then, when is it time to throw in the towel? There's really not a lot of great answers for that.
What would you say is like the incidence of sepsis in these? I'm just thinking back the last 4 that we did. It's like, oh, they're doing fantastic. Oh, it's going to be so easy. Yeah. And then you walk in and you're like, oh shit, like they're going to die today.
I think it's high because you're cannulated and somewhat immobile, and just I think there's this. How you after a big infection or a big hit, you have this dip in your immune system, and they talk about that with just septic shock in general, right? In the critically ill population, that they have this period where of vulnerability and risk for secondary infections, and so I'd say it's high. We've seen a fair amount of candidemia actually, because patients have a big pneumonia that goes to their ARDS, and they end up on broad spectrum antibiotics with cannulas in, and they end up fungemic, and so I think that we've had probably 2 or 3 in the last 6 months that have had candidemia and eventually recovered from that and still weaned, but it makes it harder.
Do you find like long-term, like you have the VD success stories, and like what's long-term effects of their immune system and the compromise?
I mean, there's
do they come back with other infections quicker?
I think early on while they're hospitalized, they're certainly at risk, and a lot of times it's not just the initial insult. They'll get another nosocomial pneumonia while they're on the ventilator. I'd say there's a very high incidence of venous thromboembolism because the Avalon catheter is such a big catheter, it's occlusive. We actually do Dopplers on everybody, and a lot of patients end up, because almost all of them have clot, end up still on systemic anticoagulation even after they're off ECMO. I think
I mean, like
just
even post-discharge,
yeah,
like, you're back out in the community
yeah,
and these other disease process,
yeah,
and here you've had this whole inflammatory response in the past.
Just like all our other, critically ill patients that you're taking care of, I think there's a high incidence of post-ICU syndrome where they're critical illness, polyneuropathy, and myopathy, and they're debilitated, and and so they have a propensity to bounce back. And patients that come off of ECMO aren't out of the woods. There's still a high risk of not surviving through their hospital discharge. Mm-hmm. And so even though everybody wants to high five after the patient's off ECMO, I think a lot of times the work's not done, and there's still a risk, an at-risk patient that has a high likelihood of not doing well.
So in the patient that you mentioned like that, you wean them off, and then next day you come and it looks so bad, do you put them back on ECMO?
It depends, I think. If it's been like a really long, rocky course, and you're, you think that their likelihood of improving, or if the family doesn't want to do it or something like that. If it was somebody that was pretty viable, then I think we probably would put them back on.
Have you ever done anybody like that? Like
Yeah, we have. We've had a couple patients that went off and went back on again.
This year.
Yeah, we had that patient with the pneumonectomy that they took off, and then he ended up going back on. And so with the pneumonectomy, it doesn't take much of a joke.
If you're an ARDS patient for pneumonia or sepsis, an ARDS patient like that, are you really
Yeah, I mean, I think
mostly surgical patients.
I've been wondering, what are these knobs up in front? Are they just ports that you can download information, or what is that? There's like a USB port.
So,
Curious.
Of course, this machine is used for multiple different things, so you got a bunch of different ports over here. I will tell you that these 2 ports here, like for example this port right here, this is used to transmit data. So one of the things that we did when we got the cardio hubs in is we had the capsule people and our Epic people map that stuff out. So now the information, in theory,
continuously downloading Epic,
will transmit directly from this. So all of the settings that are here, all the numbers here, get transmitted into capsule and then directly into a flow sheet on Epic. This port right here is used for downloading to like a USB port. The other one is for system access, to be able to to do upgrades and different things like that, change the software.
What's the red one? Is that just a power button?
So that is emergency mode button. So for example, if the screen gets busted, so this is a touch screen. So if the screen gets damaged and you can't use that, then you can go into emergency mode. And the way emergency mode is, you push this button down, it beeps 3 times, and on the third one it's a long beep. Once you release that button, it goes into emergency mode. In emergency mode, none of the buttons on the screen work. The only thing that works is the knob. Now, because I don't have this to work from, you don't know how you're affecting or what you're affecting. So you have to look at this up here. So I know, based on where the dot is,
RPM,
that I'm now delivering,
how much flow?
yeah, like,
1 meter.
yeah, 11, well, it's actually RPMs, not
RPM,
flow.
not the flow, okay.
Correct. Flow is based on a distance, and we would make those change, then becomes, I know what my RPMs are, I knew what they were before the problem was, so I wanna get there, somewhere close to there. But again, you're looking for patient response is what you're looking for, well, you have to increase your distance.
I wanted to push that thing for the last hour.
Have you?
Just see it,
Killing you, huh?
big red thing.
You wanna push it, I'll let you
Blow
push
it up.
it. So in order to get it, come off this mode, you hold that button down for 10 seconds. It'll give you 10 beeps, beep, 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 beep. On the long beep, after that long beep, it cuts off.
You wanna get the most out of your CME dollar, I would
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the ejection seat.
So if you'd like it, I'll let you, if you wanna cut it off, you totally can.
Now that you've told me what it is,
And
I
the
I
Now, I
alternative-
just
desire
spoiled
to
it for you.
The alternative to that would just be hand crank.
Could. Yeah. We can.
Like,
Yeah,
that-
in the event
that
of
didn't
like a
work,
complete
yeah,
failure. Yeah.
Yeah. In truth, you're just buying time to get the other machine.
Does this run on battery? Because I know you guys use
Yep.
these things for transport systems.
Absolutely.
How long is the battery? Like 2-3 hours? Or
So manufacturer will say 90 minutes.
90 minutes?
But in truth, it's totally dependent on the load. So if you pull it out, the machine will actually tell you how much battery life it has. So it's alarming now that we're in emergency mode, so I'm not gonna be able to show this to you. All right, so let me take this out of emergency mode, so we're gonna have to go off and go back on. Are you sure you don't wanna do this?
Good chance.
And when you transport, you have an oxygen tank, but you just do your sweeps off of room air, or no, you it's all one gas, right? I'm sorry, never mind, dumb question.
All right. Let's take just a second here. You guys are gonna hear that air sound when I cut the, that's enough to, when you're on pump, when you hear that sound, that's it.
I do have one actual question. Like when we cool somebody on the trauma side, we use an Arctic Sun, we can tell they're having a fever because the water inflow temperature drops. Is there something like that when you hook it up to the warmer? Like is there like an input energy or something, or to, you know, like if you're trying to keep somebody, if you have a fever, you understand what I'm saying?
It's working harder to keep
It's
them-
working harder to keep them normal thermic
So
or cooling
this system
them.
has both an inlet temperature and an outlet temperature.
Uh-huh.
So if you go to the screen, right here,
Mm-hmm.
you have a temperature Venus, which right now is not reading anything because I don't have the probe hooked up. And then you have